allow me to take this opportunity on behalf of South Sudan Prevention Champions to welcome all of you, colleagues from different countries, from South Africa, Tanzania, Zimbabwe, and other colleagues from different institutions of different capacities. We are grateful to have you. So basically today we are having a learning session hosted by South Sudan on learner pregnancy policy. So basically, I will start giving a brief overview. After that, then we move to the most important content of this learning session. What happened to adolescents girls in schools in South Sudan and why? And what process or advocacy supported the issuance of the order, the ministerial order that has been issued in 2021, and what has been done so far on this, and the accountability processes that happening. We also touch best practices, and Esther Akumu will take us through this one. Then Fatma Dingba will take us through the challenges, lessons learned, and the next steps. And with that, after that, we'll handle the discussions, questions and answers. And countries will also share their learning that they are going to apply. So then we will have some takeaway points. So allow me now to start with the next step. I mean, with the overview. I think our colleagues from different countries have already introduced themselves on chat box. Let me just start with this introduction. South Sudan is actually hosting this learning session aiming at shedding light on the policies that we have and also approaches that we are using actually to reduce the level of adolescents, girls, pregnancy in schools, and also to empower AGYW in the country. So far, adolescents' pregnancy remain as a critical challenge affecting girls to access education, health care, and also overall well-being. South Sudan is actually so far among the top 10 countries in Africa, which has actually highest prevalence of adolescent pregnancy. So, however, the national policy, the national family policy for South Sudan is actually talking about those girls who are actually experiencing status of pregnancy. Out of 3, we usually get 1 who is married or in union. And the same proportion is already among the girls who are childbearing status. The causes of adolescent pregnancy in South Sudan are many. They are multifaceted that contribute to social factors, cultural and political factors, and other factors related to health system. So dowries, forced and arranged marriages, gender-based violence are some of the examples actually entails the social factors that affect this group of population. And on political social factors, we have poor implementation of some policies and strategies in terms of giving adequate services to this. Poverty is also one of these factors. In terms of health system, we have so many gaps. There are a lot of failure in provision of services to adolescents, young girls, and women. So, unavailability of health services, such as contraceptives for adolescents, is so scarce in this country. Teenagers, adolescents-friendly health services or centers are not actually available across the countries. So South Sudan is actually facing some other factors which are rampant in the country, like rape and sexual oppression, are some of the causes of adolescent pregnancy in this country. So adolescents pregnancy constitute a public health problem in this country. So it affects those girls in terms of common norms, custom, traditions among various communities of South Sudan. Next. So this is just a brief statistics about AGYW in this country. South Sudan has 72% of young people who are less than 30 years of age. Out of that, 57% of South Sudan people are below the age of 18. And we have 52% of child marriages happening in this country, meaning girls who are actually at age of less than 18 are already being married, either a forced marriage or other, early marriages. So early pregnancy is also happening for girls who are actually less than 18 years of age. This one represents around 28%. And we have only 25% of girls attending secondary school, according to 2021, report. In 2021, you can see we have only 199,000 girls enrolled in primary one. According to Ministry of Education, only 11,275 girls enrolled in secondary school, more especially in senior 4. So we have children who are out of school. This one represents around 2.8 million out of 12 million, the entire population of this country. 19% of female of more than 15 years of age are literate, meaning females are actually less than men in South Sudan in terms of literacy. Next. So my colleague is supposed to present this and she's not here. Okay, I will continue because my colleague who is supposed to present this is on the way coming and she will take over from me. So we want just to focus on what happened exactly to adolescent girls in South Sudan in most of the schools, being it primary or secondary, and why. So early marriages in this country actually and unplanned teen pregnancy are already a problem, a big concern for years. So it has been a major cause of school dropout for girls in primary and secondary school. So the country had reported as being one of the 7th highest child marriage rate in the world. So South Sudan is actually one of the worst countries in terms of child marriages. So countrywide, from 2019 to 2020, there are some data collected countrywide indicating that there was only 34% of the pupils who sat for primary exams. But the number was quite bigger than that. So this is the number who have actually enrolled, pursued their education, and they have sat for their exams. So many of girls actually drop out of school due to pregnancy and early marriages. Nevertheless, in 2020, Ministry of Education, Ministry of General Education and Instruction, together with Girls Education Program in South Sudan, had conducted a pregnancy mapping exercise in 2,404 schools countrywide to understand actually the basic of this was actually to understand the effect or impact of COVID-19 pandemic related to school closure on learners. So the mapping actually concluded that 4,780 learners were pregnant in 2020, when the lockdown was actually progressive. And the reports of girls becoming pregnant continue to rise from that time and then. Then the schools, when the school reopened, there were reports of pregnant and nursing learners being denied their rights to sit for examination and to continue with their education. So this one is actually violating or contradicting the provisions of right to education in our interim South Sudan Constitution 2011 as amended. And also General Education Act 2012 is saying all girls who are actually in school, they have, pregnant girls, they have right to actually re-enter the school once again when they actually get, delivered. Next. Next slide. So also, I've already spoken about this. General Education Act is more similar to the education policy. That one is talking about education shall be accessible to all citizens in this country without discrimination on basis of sex, race, ethnicity, health status, religious creed, and all this, HIV, gender, or disability. And also the Child Act 2008 explicitly talking or stressing, sorry for interruption, you can see on the slide some learners who have actually got pregnant and they have already delivered their children and they have been actually allowed to come back to resume their classes. And we actually supposed to have some practical voices from teachers and from other administrators and girls who are actually beneficiaries of this. But unfortunately, we could not do that due to actually limit of time. And I have my colleague here, Esther Akumu, will continue with the rest. Next slide, please. What process or advocacy supported the issuance of ministerial order? You can continue from here.
Thank you very much. I'm Esther Kumachira from the Ministry of General Education and Instruction. The Ministry of General Education was motivated by already existing General Education Act 2012 to issue the ministerial order to effect the code of conduct according to the law. And as the education re-entry policy is also still underway to be drafted. And this was after the study, finding out that very many girls have got pregnant and some are forced to marry. This is what motivated the ministry. Thank you.
Next slide.
What has been done about the adolescent girls' pregnancy in South Sudan? Mogay issued a landmark circular or ministerial order in January 2021. Policy of no expulsion of pregnant girls from the school and even the girls who delivered and nursing their babies. Instructing and ordering school managers and teachers to allow pregnant and nursing learners back to school to sit their examination, as many were already senior school leavers and they had to register to complete their education. The ministerial order urges the head teachers, school managers committee, board of governors, and parents and teachers association, along with the local officials, ministry officials, to ensure that vulnerable learners, including pregnant learners, are permitted to continue their education. Next slide. School management and teachers to provide supportive environment for the pregnant learners in schools across the country. Encourages all stakeholders, community leaders, and parents to allow pregnant girls to continue attending classes and to offer them the necessary support to continue learning in school of their choice. Next slide. In case of violation of pregnant girls' rights in particular, schools, parents, and guardians should be holding that school management body accountable. And fortunately, these were very rare cases. Parents and guardians to report any case in which pregnant learners are denied their right to education by calling the free hotline 623 South Sudan only. As a result, no report have been received through the designated number 623 as such, but there was some complaint that some head teachers refused pregnant learners to resume classes but to be transferred to other schools. The ministry asked the head teachers to abide by the order, and the girls were back in their school in their respective classes. Next slide. Yes, in 2021 alone, after passing of the ministerial order, many pregnant girls came back to resume classes countrywide. An example, in one county alone, 50 pregnant girls who delivered and got back to school. Many have come back. Also, 11 pregnant girls got delivered while taking their examination. The ministry organized for them to sit the same examination, which is not missed, but the remaining papers, together with the other learners where they are, be it in the hospital or at home. In 2023, some learners who delivered babies or had miscarriage were brought back to school by their husbands. Next slide. Best practice. Yeah, best implementation practice. We have cash transfer. This is direct payment made once to girls regularly attending school to help them buy things they needed to contribute to poverty reduction in the family and the community, and give hope to orphans. 2, we have capitation grant, which is provided to all schools, both primary and secondary, provision of reliable funding to schools to remove burden of registration fee for students, pupils, and parents, reduce the cost of education, and encourage families to send their children to school. 3, quality education, offering practical support to schools, teachers, and education managers to improve their quality of education, decreases dropout and repetition rates. 4, knowledge and evidence research and learning, studying and understanding more about the issue that prevent girls from going to school, staying in school and learning while at school, and Girls Education South Sudan program, also generating knowledge about the best practice in education. What works doesn't work. Both national and international in programmatic causality and the impact in implementing barriers to girls' education and promote gender equality through the education system. Next slide. Social barriers, social and behavior change communication. Creating enabling social cultural environment for supporting girls' education through radio and community outreach is done. 6, in some states where possible, bicycle awareness. The bike is given for a girl to bring young mothers back to school and showing remarkable results. 7, community girls school. This program provides quality basic education for girls aged 8 to 12 in villages that have no school, and particularly for those girls who are always left home by their parents or guardians to take care of their siblings. Next step. Summary of best practice. This best practice indeed have added value to pregnant learners and mothers with babies' education in many ways. 1, it motivated many girls and young mothers to get encouraged and get back to school. 2, inspired the incentivized teachers to read, that is, teachers who are hard to reach and are reluctant to teach. They are given some incentives to educate the girls and identify such cases. 3, teachers with little knowledge and skills to deal with the pregnant learners and young mothers with babies are trained on gender-responsive program, pedagogy actually, to responsibly deal with these girls, these learners. Next. The summary. The passing of the order enabled learners who are pregnant and had babies to be protected in terms of provision of possible available service. Special child care provision to learners who have babies in some schools are provided. That is to say, they have babysitter to care for the babies, small token to facilitate some of their needs, but no special provision for pregnant learners in the classes for now, in terms of special seat or bench. Because most of them actually, when they're about to deliver, they don't come to school, or when the womb shows up, they don't come to school. They prefer to come back after delivery. Next.
Now, thank you very much, Esther. Now we are proceeding with the next step. We are going to hear about the challenges that related to implementation processes for the ministerial order that has been issued, and some other challenges related actually to the program to empower AGYW. Thank you, Fatma. Welcome.
Thank you so much. My name is Fatma. I'll take you through the challenges. And despite the ministerial order and the existing policies, there is still a weak implementation of these policies and laws in these schools. So this has become a challenge since there is no tight marking to ensure that these policies are being followed and the orders are being followed, because some schools still do not follow them. Then girls drop out of school and refuse to return to their education because of the demeaning and depreciating names the community often call them after having a child. So it becomes a problem to some of the girls to go back to school because of the journey of motherhood, and sometimes their colleagues at school calling them names, and even the communities. That stigma makes these girls to drop out of school. And then pressure and encouragement from relatives and parents to marry early to meet their family needs. So when a girl gets pregnant and delivers, the parents often force these girls to go to the man who impregnates them to marry them so that they get the dowry. And this dowry helps them to meet their family needs. And sometimes these men support the family. So this pressure from the families and relatives make these girls to get married early and drop out of school. Then the poor social behavior change interventions. So in the communities, there is no strict social behavior change interventions, which makes it difficult for girls to change their behaviors and go back to school. Then adolescent girls desire to become mothers. Some of these girls, when they see their colleagues or their fellow girls pregnant and have kids, so they feel it's some kind of prestige to be mothers, and they also desire to become mothers. So some of them end up dropping out of school or getting pregnant, and so that they become mothers and hence end up dropping out of school. Next. So some decision makers or politicians are against the order, because some of the decision makers or politicians are the ones impregnating these girls, or they are the ones marrying the young girls. So they are against the implementation of this order because this order affects them. So it makes it another challenge to implement the order. Then some men refuse their women to go back to school. When a girl, some of the girls, they after getting pregnant, they are married off, and after them giving birth to their children or to their babies, their husband or the men they are forced to marry refuse their women to go back to school, saying that these people are now, the girls are now women, and they're meant to stay at home and take care of their families and bear more children, so they refuse them to go back to school. Another challenge is the distance to school. The distance to school discourages many pregnant learners and those having babies to come back. Some of the schools are very far from where the pregnant learners learn, and with the changes that comes with pregnancy, sometimes it becomes difficult for these young pregnant learners to travel from where they stay to the school because of the long distances, and hence they end up dropping out of school. Or after giving birth with the baby and all the challenges, the distance affects them from going back to school after giving birth. And then social and economic situations such as poverty hinders many of them. So after the young learners getting pregnant and dropping out of school, sometimes the economic situation or the social situation, especially poverty, it hinders them from going back to school, because some of the schools, they have to pay school fees, and some of the families have many children. So at the end of the day, when you get pregnant, the parents concentrate on the other children who are in school, and hence they will not be able to pay school fees for the rest of the students or for the rest of the children at home. So poverty becomes another hindrance for many of the pregnant learners and the young mothers from going back to school. Next slide, please. Lessons learned. So the order motivated pregnant learners and young mothers to eagerly go back to school after passing of the ministerial order, which encourages schools, parents, and management, communities to allow pregnant learners to go back to school and young mothers. So this has motivated the pregnant learners to go back to school and the young mothers after getting pregnant or after giving birth. So this has become a motivation for them to go back to school. And continuous advocacy through BBC media and community dialogues encourage and allow many pregnant girls to come back to school. So through the continuous advocacy on this order, it has made some of the communities to be aware of this, and it has allowed many pregnant girls to know about this order and hence go back to school. So distance to school for pregnant learners and young mothers having babies where no secondary school make it difficult for them to pursue their education or sit their exams. But now there are some partners that are offering boarding secondary schools to some of those girls and young others. So to to solve the challenge of the distance, there are some schools, partners or donors who are offering boarding schools. And these boarding schools have helped in making these girls stay permanently in the school until their holidays, which has helped with solving the challenge of the distance. So these girls are enrolled in the boarding schools and they are able to be provided for food and the necessary requirements they need to be in those schools so that they get their secondary education. And this has helped these pregnant learners and young mothers to go back to school. So the outcomes of researches and evidence-based information on girls' education give many answers to pregnant learner problems. So with the research and the evidence, this evidence has been used as an advocacy to be able to answer many questions and to be able to advocate for the pregnant learners to go back to school. Next. The utilization so these are the immediate next steps. The utilization of intervention made through research and evidence-based information suitable to South Sudan context are crucial. So it is really important to utilize the evidence that we have got through different research, and especially to the context of South Sudan. It's really crucial to be able to implement these policies and to be able to challenge what is difficult for us not to implement some of these policies. So reinforcement and implementation of laws and policies and answerability process. So though we have some of the policies and we have the ministerial order, we really would like to see that there is a reinforcement and implementation, that these laws and policies are being implemented. And we would like to see that there is an answerability process. What is it done in case some of the schools that have these girls, they are not allowing girls to go back to school? How are they going to be answerable for it? Like, it's an accountability channel. We'd love to see that we have an accountability and answerability process where if a girl drops out of school and either the girl wants to go back to school, and the school refuses them to go back to school, or the parents force them into marriage, would like to see the process or the channels on how these laws are being followed, how they are going to be answerable for their actions. Then holding conferences with indigenous in different parts of the country and come with communique that enables them to keep track. So it will be very important to hold conferences with different indigenous people from different parts of the country, because the different parts of the country, they have different way of thinking. There are some of the communities that encourage young, like early child marriages and forcing young girls, pregnant girls into marriage. So would love to see that we have hold conferences with them to take them through these policies, to take them through this ministerial order so that we are able to keep track of what is going through the country. Then convene advocacy campaigns with communities and community leaders. So would also like to have community leaders who are the custodians of our communities. Would like to have the advocacy campaigns with them so that they are able to push for the implementation of the policies and the order. And then develop implementation strategy to be followed by stakeholders. Next. Yeah, thank you so much. So I think we'll go into discussions and question and answers. I can hand over back to Gabriel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, colleagues online. Yeah, thank you, Fatima, for taking us through the challenges and lessons learned. As I've said earlier, we are supposed to give you actually some voices, practical voices from the beneficiaries and also from the administration. Unfortunately, we could not manage to do that, but still we can be able to record all this and maybe share with you later on. Those who are actually testifying what is happening in terms of benefiting from the services being offered to them through the order, I mean, in ministerial order. We have seen some of the, I think we are entering now a session for discussions. We have some questions being dropped in chat box. We'll handle them now. The first question, I think, was asking about from Kerry, what happened to pregnant girls who have dropped out of the school, isn't it? Yeah. Let's see first. Okay, let's follow the first question. Hello, are we together?
Yes.
Yeah. So we are now actually discussing what has been presented, and we'll take first the questions that have been already dropped. I think the questions are, yeah, it's this one. So the first question was the South Sudan team. Would South Sudan team please share what was done to pass the order at the political level? Okay. So Kamo was asking about what actually South Sudan team share, what was done to pass the order and at the political level, and what lessons were learned from this. We can first maybe take this one.
Thank you for that question. Yeah. I think one, the ministry was motivated by the Education Act 2012, as Gabriel put it, where we have in Chapter 9, Article 9, Chapter 9, Article 10, is it 13? 30. Yeah, that says every pregnant girl has got a right to remain in school and continue or have re-entry after delivery. And this document actually was signed by the President of the Republic of South Sudan. And the document itself was discussed first in the parliament. It took the process up to the time when it came back to the executive and the president signed it. This was what motivated the ministry to issue that order. And because of our culture, that forces young girls to go for marriage and against their will. So we thought that this was the only way to rescue these girls who have interest in learning, but they are forced to go for what they did not want. Despite that, we have advocacy that is always done to make sure that these girls are not deprived of their right. So this is the process that was motivated the ministry. Thank you.
Okay, just to add on that, before we move to lesson learned from that order at political level, we have some documents, actually, some legal framework, which were already passed and signed by the president. Most of them are speaking the same or stipulate the same thing. First of all, the General Education Act, and also the Constitution plus the Child Act 2008, all of them speaks one language. No pregnant girl should be expelled from school, or those who are actually delivered babies. So those policies are actually redundant. The enforcement is a problem. So now the level of pregnancies or the rate of pregnancy is increasing every time and then across the country. Now the ministry felt that we should actually back that act or those acts with the political kind of or ministerial order rather. So we can add on the lesson learned if at all there are some lesson learned. We'll come back to lesson learned.
Yeah.
Maybe before we get that, of course, there are ideas in the room of different opinions on what happened. But my addition, this is Betty, Betty with you, Nate. For me, my addition is that if you look at the literacy in this country, especially among the female gender, it's really, really bad. Sorry? Only 19% of literacy. And if you look at the different levels and the affirmative actions that are done at the high level, there's not feeding into that affirmative action. Because if you talk about the interim constitution talking about 30, it used to be 35%. The 35% of the constitutional posts and all government positions to be held by women. So what is going to feed into that 35% by the country? And so the feeding in from the secondary schools or from education has seen us very weak, and it's very loud outcry from all the directions. So I think that is one of the big push factor into the preparations and passing of this political, these policies and these orders to come through. It's not adequate, but the outcry continues, and I think the progress so far is something that we can register, but I think there's a lot that needs to be done. But we can give other chances to colleagues here so that they can say their own experiences on why these orders were passed. Over, colleagues.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is Moses. Allow me also shed some light that one thing that we learn from this ministerial order is that when we have a problem as a country and there's a political will from leadership, there's always that aspect in terms of concurrency. You find that stakeholders and the implementers on ground, because it has come from higher authorities, the urge in terms of implementation, it is high. If aspect of procedures and all the rules that are in place are really followed. So we take it from that the ministerial order, it makes the country become zealous from all angles in terms of taking up the order from the higher authorities in terms of making sure that whatever is enshrined in the policies, being the Education Act, being the Constitution of the Republic of South Sudan, it is really enforced. And we really take that when there's that arm of government in terms of streamlining, the response in terms of uptake of the intervention becomes easy in terms of implementation.
Any addition from colleagues?
Yeah, thank you very much. This is Veronica from Media House. I'm also looking at a level of awareness with the community and even at high level, the civil society themselves. When the order came out, majority of them did not pick up immediately. And the level of awareness is very low about these policies. So that's where the implementation become a challenge. Two, well, majority of the girls themselves, they are not aware. They are not aware about these policies that is protecting their rights to be in the schools. Because when you go as far as Boma primary schools at Payam levels, you ask even teachers, they say, I did not see this document. How does it look like? So we look at it like it's better that the Minister of Education at a high level has to take all these policies up to Payam levels so that the teachers and the head teachers are aware about it. Even it has to be part of their social education at school. They have to be trained on how they behave in the school and what the law protects their right.
Thank you, Veronica. So these are some actual response to the question. And the follow-up question from Shallow. Shallow, hi, how are you? So Shallow was asking what happens to girls who have dropped out of the school. Are they followed up to return back to school? So we'll give feedback, to this question.
Thank you. I wanted to say that this ministerial order was passed up to the school level, where all head teachers had the document. And that's why in one of the meetings, a head teacher was saying the girl should move away. And this was one of the girls who reported that the head teacher is sending our colleague away to go to another school, but we want her to remain. And then I had to talk to the head teacher and tell her that this girl is already familiar with the school and the teachers, so we can't send her away since we are left only with a month or two for examination. And as for the lesson learned, some of the men themselves brought their women back to school, those who are here. Even in the most difficult area like Pibor, we were able to convince 2 girls to come back and see primary 8. They sat and passed, and we gave the responsibility to one of our partners to follow up with these girls. So considering the second question, are these girls followed? Those who drop out? Yes, they are followed. We have school mothers in schools or school fathers who look at these girls and talk to them, advise them, and even ask the girls if any one of them have dropped out. And if she has dropped out, they go and find out the reason. And then she has to come back to school. So this is already something that we have initiated, and we are trying to follow it up. And actually, this issue was even before we passed the ministerial order, we had a meeting at the AU level, which stipulated that there are many girls in all the countries that should be brought back, those girls who got pregnant. And this is what actually encouraged other countries, including us, to have this ministerial order, and again, try to develop a re-entry policy, which some countries have already developed. So this is, I think, what I can give and say that, yes, we follow the girls.
Any addition? Thank you very much. Any addition?
I think that
Okay.
is clear.
Clear. Let's move then to Sego. What measures are being taken to prevent the high rate of teenage pregnancy? It seems that the current policy is more on the management of teenage pregnancies that have already occurred. But what proactive interventions are put in place to prevent further pregnancies?
I think as a ministry, we have the comprehensive sexuality education, which we have trained the teachers on how to teach these girls and boys to protect themselves. And the country actually have even developed the out of school comprehensive sexuality education. And apart from that, for education, we have this radio, the advocacy that is done through radio, but mainly what we are focusing on is the girl must know herself and see how and know how to prevent pregnancy. So that's why we give the comprehensive sexuality education, which is covering all the schools. And I know that many parents are saying that we are, by teaching this comprehensive sexuality education, we are teaching the girls to misbehave or to get pregnant. But we say no, once the girl knows what sex is, then she will know how to prevent pregnancy. I think this is what I can say.
Thank you.
If there is any
Yeah, just to add on that, within the school environment, I think the General Education Act 2012 is very clear. If pregnancy actually happen within that environment from the teacher or from any administrator, I think the punitive measures are there. The school, the teacher has to be, or the administrator has to be dismissed. And this one is very clear. Also, we have Early Marriages Act by Ministry of National Early Marriage Act 2020 from Ministry of Gender. I think that one also talks about that. And it has some measures that can actually punish the people who are actually doing that. So this is what I can add on that, just to proactively reduce the further pregnancy. Thank you.
Let me add something.
Yeah, let me.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, one by one.
Okay, thanks a lot. My name is Boscovia. What I wanted to add is awareness is really taking place. Awareness is taking place to prevent teenage girls from getting pregnant in South Sudan. Though the awareness rate is not high, we are fighting so hard so that it can reach all over. In radios, social medias, there are a lot of awareness taking place whereby the comprehensive sexual education is being, the information is being spread all over to girls who have dropped out of school and who are in further places whereby you cannot reach them. Thanks a lot.
I'm Sheila Evans. We have South Sudan Penalty Act 2009, which is stated about the case of raping and early marriage, you should be imposed in prison about 14 years. And when you marry the underage child, you should be imposed with the same year to be in prison for 14 years. And when we talk of another act about allowing child to become a prostitution, you should be imposed to prison in 10 years. Thanks.
So thank you very much. I think we have so many provisions enshrined in our legal framework, but the implementation processes or reinforcement of this is one of the hiccup actually. So we have some good legal framework. Let's move to Katlego. The data presented in the beginning, was that before or after the interventions, cash transfer and others? What are the current AGY statistics regarding school? Can you scroll it? It's up, that's one high. Yeah. So the question was, what are the current AGY statistics regarding school attendance and literacy rates? I think that was given in the beginning. Yeah, we have given the rates. If we can go back to the slide, then you can just stress it.
But, okay, I think what I can say about the data presented in the beginning, this was, by that time we had already the cash transfer and all those things. But it was just the situation because the schools were closed and girls were idle. This is one of the things that prompted them to be pregnant. And as that is concerned, because even if you give the cash transfer, still if she is idle, then it makes her commit that. But apart from that, even the parents who have those culture, they will say, now you're idle, you better go and get married. And they force you, although you are not pregnant, you will go and then become pregnant. And this is what prompted. But, and this is what prompted us to say, okay, since the girls are idle, they are not going to school, let's have the education online. And this was at least what reduced this and made the community and the parents to say that, well, they have something to do. A girl will read and she's obliged to do the house chores apart from reading, and this made it better. And as for the data or the statistics regarding this, I think it was shown about, and we are now still following and having some studies to see what has prompted all this. Thank you.
Thank you. A question from Wendy. My question is on the social behavior change communication strategies that you employ. Do you have strategies at a more personal level, like peer-to-peer, one-on-one, or a small group discussion?
We have it with the guest program, in the guest program, whereby we have a community radio where they sit and listen, and somebody interprets what exactly the communication is about. And in schools, we have school girls education movement clubs. And in these clubs, we have the girls and at least a few boys. That's what we have seen, and the teachers to be talking to the girls, advising them, and trying to show them how they should lead. And in this case, that's why sometimes you find when a girl misses school, a group of girls and boys go to the family and say, what is happening? Why is she not coming to school? They question. And at the end, they bring back the girl so that she can continue with her education. And most of the time, even boys are involved. The boys, in this study, we have also a number of boys who are forced to marry. And this is happening, and that's why we have the Girls Education Club, which includes boys because they are facing the same challenges at home in the community. I think this is what I can say.
Yeah, as it was actually said earlier, on the teachers, group of teachers who have been actually incentivized to go further to areas where hard to reach. Actually, they are employing this kind of behavior change, communication to boys and girls, and also the peer-to-peer, one-to-one through the clubs, which are existing in many schools, are actually one of the modalities to change, to make kind of change within this group. Thank you. Addition?
Regina online has put up her hand.
Regina Osa. Regina.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone.
Welcome.
Yeah, I just wanted to us to look also on the issue of pregnanting underage girl as a crime. What do we do with the perpetrators? You know, the perpetrators are supposed to be brought to books because in the Child Act law, it is stated very clearly that anyone having an affair with a girl under age below 18 commits a crime. So I wanted us to look also on that area. What can Ministry of Education or even the Ministry of Justice and Ministry of Interior and Ministry of Gender or Ministry do about ensuring that the perpetrator are brought to books? Thank you. That's all I want to say.
Thank you
Just
very
to
much.
remind us.
Thank you, Regina. Thank you. Thank you. So Minister of Gender also has some good for a legal framework. Like Child Act has a lot of provisions, good ones, but we need actually to reinforce them. So another question from Brian Otieno. As part of the best practices, are there psychosocial interventions or services offered to the girls, considering there was a mention on stigma surrounding teenage pregnancy?
Yeah, I think this is one of the programs that we are carrying, the mentoring and counseling. We have teachers trained for that, and even the school mothers, as I mentioned, are trained for that, such that they can talk to the girls and try to tell them that this is normal. Actually, there are some educated mother-in-laws. I remember in one of the county where we went, I found a young mother whose child was taken from her, and she was asked by the mother-in-law go back to school and remain in the boarding school. They took care, they paid everything and took care of her. This is the importance of having an educated mother who sees that the daughter-in-law must be educated as well. But we have this program to mentor and counsel the girls such that they remain in school. For what Regina is saying, yes, we as in education, we are taking care of that. Actually, now we are struggling with the case of a girl under 18 who was pregnant. The parents took some cows, but we told the parents, this is not what we are encouraging. It's deep. I went deep into that village, which I don't mention, but we are looking at that. We have our legal advisor. We are trying to find out the legal aspect of it. How do we go about this case? Meanwhile, the girl is at home because she's very young, she's very shy, she cannot go to school. So these are some of the things we are trying to build on, and we are trying to educate. We actually had convened a conference on girl child education, where we called all the chiefs in one of the states and talked to them about the girl child education and the consequences where some men are trying to pregnant the girls or marry them off at an early age. I give an example of a girl in a boarding school who was married off by 111 cows. And this case did not remain where it was. It went up to the governor, and the governor told the man, because he was a commissioner, then he asked him, choose between these two evils. You take her, you lose, or either you take her or you lose your job. You leave her, you'll continue, because she has to remain in school. We need her because she will be somebody tomorrow. So these are some of the cases that we don't keep quiet as the Ministry of Education. We carry it up and we shoot it up until it finds a solution. Thank you.
Thank you. On the psychosocial interventions, I think this one is also happening within the school environment.
Yeah.
In terms of having social workers who actually counsel and talk to girls who are having babies and also those who are pregnant, just to cool them down and to make them overcome all this kind of stigmatization within the school environment and the community. Any addition from colleagues?
I think one of the additions I can make is that in these schools, we have safe spaces where these girls are able to share among themselves the issues that they face, especially regarding teenage pregnancy and how they can protect themselves. And I think also the other thing is the behavior communication, which is also ongoing within the schools and even the other safe spaces outside the school premises. This also helps to really address some of the issues regarding the stigma, because they're able to come together peer to peer, girl to girl, to share their concerns. The other practices that have also really helped to reduce the stigma is involving the parents of the girls, engagement of the stakeholders, as has been mentioned earlier, because then we will be able to have people who are willing to give a conducive environment for these girls. Even when they get pregnant, they are not stigmatized. So these are some of the things that maybe I can add.
I can add one more. It was mentioned earlier on that we have the advocacies that are ongoing, especially the media, the radio stations, and also social media. There are role plays that are being presented at convenient times, especially over weekends and in the evenings or early mornings. And there's also these advocacies are also part of the psychosocial, because the girls who are dropped out and have gone back to school share their experiences, or the role plays that are in form of dramas and whatever it's presented to the girls. And when they listen to it, it gives that kind of courage and take out the issues of stigma self-stigma, especially among the girls, but also the parents, because some of the dramas and role plays that are presented on these media houses, they target the parents, target the pregnant girls, target those who have dropped out, and encourage them.
South Sudan colleagues, unfortunately, you're on mute.
Okay. Sorry, Lolama. I'm saying we have finished with the questions which are actually dropped in the chat box. And now we have still some ample time to move. If there are some burning questions, please drop them, then we move to the next step.
Gabriel, I just wanted to ask, sorry. I just wanted to highlight on one issue of economic. You know, bringing up a child, it is a cost. Now, sometimes you find that these girls, they struggle along with the parents to bring up the child, and the man who pregnanted this child is not really bothering about what to support. So I was thinking that we have to look at this also to ensure that the law also look at the cost of bringing up a child, or any person who pregnanted a school girl has to pay a monthly cost for the bringing up of the child. Anyway, this is economic cost of bringing up a child. So it's just a suggestion, which I feel as a member of the South Sudan, we should also look at it. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Regina. Is this one also a provision in the Child Act 2008?
It's not in the Child Act, but we have to really look at it and ensure that it is also made a law that any person who pregnant a girl, of course, bringing up a child, that is, I'm looking at the bringing up of a child. And you find that in South Sudan, most of these girls, they suffer alone in all even when the child is sick, she's alone and all that. Sometimes it might be a young boy or whatever, he runs away. So I was thinking, what can we do about such kind of thing? And can we put it law, bringing up a child by a young girl who has no income at all? Thank you.
Thank you, Regina. Thank you. Thank you. I think the family bill is also one element. We'll discuss that one. Okay, thank you very much. Lolama, what can you advise? Should we move to now take away practices, from the countries?
Yes, I think we can do that.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's move to take away. Is there any country ready to share anything? South Africa, Zimbabwe, Tanzania? The technical experts? Hello?
Gabriel, it's Kerry. I wonder if I could share a reflection as the AGYW lead on the SSLM. Colleagues, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Kerry.
Thank you. I mean, maybe my reflection, I think it's been a wonderful sharing today. And I think what I've taken away that I want to consider for other countries is just that there's so much learning to be had by hearing from people who really experience a number of challenges and, you know, kind of difficult contextual environments. And I personally think that if in South Sudan such an order can be passed, or if in South Sudan, you know, some best practices have been applied really well, you know, if resources have been mobilized and some political will, I think anyone can do it, really. And so I just wanted to thank the South Sudan team for being very honest in terms of where the challenges lie. I think, you know, I think the team have identified many spaces where they too are still struggling, and perhaps there could be some learnings from other countries. But certainly in terms of the order that has been passed, I think that even with its difficulties in implementation, it's a really big success at a high political level. And I think it's great to understand that a bit more and see how other countries wanting to do the same might be able to do that. So yeah, I just wanted to thank the team and thank all the different voices from the different constituencies. I think it really enriched our learning experience today. So thank you to the team.
Thank you. Thank you. Any from others? Welcome, Kamu.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to hand over to Dr. Tato. She's happy to give some key takeaways from the SA team as well.
Right. Thank you, Kamu, and good day, everyone. Thank you, Program Director. Tato Shidayakire. I'm responsible for HIV and AIDS and STI programs in the National Department of Health, or I would say Ministry of Health, as countries refer to. So while my strength does not lie within the Department of Education per se, and I hope I'm being heard, I will talk to a little bit our guidance with regards to young people. And while we also have policies and acts and, you know, the Bill of Rights in terms of young people, we have the Children's Act that guides. We also have interventions that are guided and entrenched within, as I say, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And South Africa is very clear in terms of young people and sexual acts and what should be done with who. And between the Department of Health and Department of Basic Education, even higher health, and our implementing partners, we keep trying to work on empowering our young girls and young boys, you know, when it comes to, as I said, my strength is with HIV, when it comes to, you know, acquisition and prevention of transmission of HIV, unplanned pregnancies, as well as just general empowerment for young people and for the parents. So this was quite enlightening. And I must say, to an extent, most of our African countries share the same sentiments. And while some countries may actually be, you know, in a way condoning some of these activities, most of the countries are not. And we would like to really continue to learn from other countries, see what policies are in place, especially implementation, because the challenge has always been translating these policies and acts and laws into implementation. So it would really be great to see how countries are being successful. It would be great to have maybe another learning process at some point, just to see how far we've gone. And also how, as South Africa, we can incorporate some of these, you know, interventions to see how we can protect and guide our young people. I think I'll pause here. Thank you. And
thank you very much. Thank you, Kam. Thank you. Any other takeaway? No. I'm not seeing colleagues from Tanzania. Yes. Embo, welcome.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Morning, we're hearing you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking time to present your experiences, as well as go through some of the real challenges that you are facing. I'd just like to echo, like from the Zimbabwean experience, that it's quite fascinating that from a social cultural perspective, and as much as we're in totally different hemispheres, our experiences are the same. And I think this just buttresses the value of this South-to-South learning initiative, that we can learn from countries which are not in our sphere of influence, for lack of a better expression. So I think the key takeaway that I got from the South Sudan experience is that the most important thing is the political will to continue to implement, and learning from implementation by a key man from government and the ministry, so that there's that backing that this is our policy and this is how we do it, regardless of the local nuances that might exist. And I think from a Zimbabwean perspective, and even other countries as well, there needs to be that continued engagement, because if you look at the amount of capacity development that has happened within our countries and support to government, we have a lot of great documents and policies which exist on paper, but making sure that a headmaster at a district level or a cell level is aware of this policy and what it means to the learning outcomes of learners, versus someone who's sitting at head office in the capital city or at a provincial level, who might be aware of this but doesn't have the capacity or the means to go and implement or ensure that there's adherence to this policy at a local level. So I think that's something that is really important from the South Sudan perspective. And I think as country teams, we need to find ways of how can we continue to advocate or have that continued advocacy that happens, making use of our local resources and structures that we have to ensure that that information continues to be disseminated, whether it's collaboration with, for instance, village health workers who work at a cell level, but also increasing their capacity so that they don't just work in silo for health issues, but also maybe some aspects from the Ministry of Education that will help in interpretation and spreading that information that is critical to ensure that the learning outcomes of girls is not taken back compared to boys when it comes to instances such as teenage pregnancy. So thank you, South Sudan team, for this, and thank you to the SSLN team for ensuring that we're able to participate in this and have this conversation. Over.
Thank you, Tinash. Thank you very much. Who else want to share a takeaway? Ulama, back to you.
No, thank you, South Sudan team. I think you can render the remarks, and we will launch support for the colleagues on the call. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yes, over to you for any closing remarks.
Okay. Thank you very much. In the first place, I would like actually to appreciate and commend the SSLN Secretariat for having given South Sudan actually a chance or opportunity to host this link and learn session on learner pregnancy policy. We are really very grateful. And I would like also to thank colleagues from different countries, from South Africa, Zimbabwe, and maybe Tanzania, and other colleagues from different agencies and institutions. Thank you very much for your contribution. Your questions have been very valid for us. And that one will also let us build on the gaps and the missing actually part of that implementation of the order and other national legal framework that we have. And I would like also to thank my colleagues. First of all, I would like to thank UNH for actually giving us this opportunity to host us in their office. And thank you very much for the services given. Thank you for colleagues who have joined us here and those who have joined us online. Thank you very much for your contribution. We are very grateful and we are looking forward actually to actually have more sessions and interaction in future. Back to you, Lulama, if there's anything.
No, nothing else on our side. We'll just ask the colleagues on the call to quickly complete the poll, and once they're done, they're free to hop off the call. But thank you so much, South Sudan team. We'll be in touch after this.
Thank you very much, Lulama and Lamek and Katlago for actually keep us in touch and following with us and giving us advice. Thank you very much.